Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. Join me today as I count down my top 10 movie trilogies. Okay, so we'll jump straight in, and at number 10 we have the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy. The first one was released in 1984, directed by Martin Brest. I thought this was absolutely amazing when I actually got around to seeing it. Obviously I was too young to see it in the cinema at the time, so when it came out on TV I absolutely loved this film, and I thought Eddie Murphy was definitely at the peak of his powers at this time. I thought the chemistry between Axel Foley, Taggart and Rosewood, absolutely brilliant. The storyline was awesome. Lots of action, lots of comedy. Brilliant film. Really, really enjoyed this. And also, who can forget the infamous Axel Foley theme tune? Absolutely brilliant. Then in 1987, we had Beverly Hills Cop 2. This was directed by Tony Scott. Again, very strong storyline. The three main characters in my eyes, Foley, Rosewood and Taggart. The chemistry between those carried on from the first film. Absolutely brilliant. Really loved it. Again, the music was fantastic. And again, a very memorable film. Bridget Nielsen was a great addition to the film. And yeah, again, Eddie Murphy, really at the peak of his powers in 1987. Really enjoyed this film. Then in 1994 we had Beverly Hills Cop 3. This was directed by John Landis. For me, this was the weakest of the three films. This was set around a theme park. I've seen it. I can't remember too much about it. It didn't have that much of an effect on me as the first two films. I remember them quite vividly. This one, a bit sketchy, not the best. Yeah, I think it missed the chemistry between the three, Rosewood, Taggart and Axel Foley. I know Rosewood was in it, but it needed Taggart just to complete the three and the humor between them. There's a brief cameo by George Lucas in this. That's all I can sort of like remember. It's a shame because the first two films were really good in my eyes, and this is why this is coming at number 10, because of that weak third link there, the third film. Okay, so that was number 10. Moving on to number 9, we have Rambo. Now, First Blood, released in 1982. Director was Ted Kotcheff. I think that's how you pronounce it. This was absolutely a fantastic film. The writing was superb. The storyline, absolutely brilliant. And it was acted to perfection. Sly Stallone did a great job. You had Brian Dennehy in it as well. I thought he was awesome as the police chief. And they really captured the essence of how the feelings were when you had the soldiers coming back from Vietnam, and those that opposed the war. They were giving them grief. They couldn't fit into society. All they knew was how to fight. The things they'd seen out in Vietnam, it must have been absolutely horrific. And John Rambo, all he wanted to do was find a place to eat, and this copper took offense to that and really started giving him a harsh time, pushing all the wrong buttons for Rambo, and that's what set him off on his little quest. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And if this was a standalone film, this would definitely be in my top 10 for standalone films. Fantastically written, fantastically acted. Then in 1985, we had First Blood Part 2. Director was George Cosmatos or Matos. This picked up from First Blood, where he was in that detention center. Troutman came along and said, "Oh yeah, we need you for a mission. Are you interested?" Obviously, he's going to say yeah. So basically, he had to rescue some American POWs from the war. Again, this was lots of action, lots of explosions, and all that sort of stuff. Lots of fight scenes and what have you. It was okay. It wasn't a bad film as action movies go. I enjoyed it. I thought it a bit far fetched, where he was practically taking on the whole army and stuff like that. And but yeah, other than that, rather, it was an enjoyable movie. Then moving on to Rambo 3, which was released in 1988. Director Peter MacDonald. Again, this is sort of like picks off from where, well, let's say picked up where Rambo left off. He's fighting somewhere, isn't he, in this Asian village or wherever it is he's at. And again, I thought the storyline was a bit flimsy. He had to go and rescue his friend Colonel Troutman, and again he was taking on the whole Russian army and Afghan army. And I just thought it again. Rambo 3 was a weak link for me. If the second two films had been as good as the first one, this would have been higher up in my ranking. But it was let down slightly by Rambo 3, like very far-fetched. I know Rambo 4 was released. That was 20 years later. I don't class that as part of the original trilogy, basically because it was 20 years after the Rambo 3. So this is why I'm including this in my my trilogy films. So yeah, that's my number 9. Okay, so moving on to number 8, we have the Indiana Jones trilogy. Oh, hang on, where's that got to? Wait a second. Here we go. Yep. So Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was released in 1981. Director Steven Spielberg. Really enjoyable film. Absolutely love this. Brilliant film. Acted well. Superb musical score by John Williams. Yeah, Harrison Ford off the back of Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back. Absolutely brilliant film. The chemistry between him and Marion was brilliant. Yeah, a real fun movie. One of those movies you can just sit down. You don't have to think too much about it. Just watch it. Great adventure film. Really, really enjoyed this. Then in 1984, we had The Temple of Doom, again directed by Steven Spielberg. Started off really well. Thought it was a really good film. Again, the storyline a little bit more sinister this time around. It did, like, at that young age, it kind of did give me the creeps a little bit. But overall, a good, enjoyable movie. Short Round was an added extra. I thought he was brilliant. He was also in the Goonies, wasn't he? As I can't remember his name in the Goonies, but yeah, I thought he added to it. The girl who played Willie Scott, so I can't remember her name. Is it Kate Cottrell or not Kate Capshaw? Was it Kate Capshaw? I think it might be Kate Capshaw. Yeah, I think she was a bit whiny. Not as good as Marion. The chemistry wasn't as good between the two. But again, an enjoyable movie. And then in 1989, we had The Last Crusade, which there you are, The Last Crusade. So in my eyes, it should have been the last film in the trilogy or the franchise. Get to that in a minute. Again, this was directed by Steven Spielberg. The added addition of Sean Connery, brilliant. The chemistry between those two, absolutely fantastic. And then you had Julian Glover as the German baddie there, who was after the Holy Grail. Again, another fun movie. Really enjoyed it. Again, John Williams with the soundtrack, absolutely brilliant. From what I heard, I think that the Temple of Doom was supposed to have been set before Raiders of the Lost Ark, but because they didn't want two movies where Indiana Jones was fighting the Nazis back to back, they sandwiched Temple of Doom in between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. not 100% sure on it. It's what I've heard. It does make sense, but I need to look into that a bit more. So don't take my word as gospel. So yeah, The Last Crusade to me means that it is the last crusade. No more Indiana Jones. 20 odd years later, they do The Crystal Skull, which for me was absolute dross. I love Harrison Ford. I think he's a great actor. I think he should have just left it well alone. And as we all know, next year, 2023, we've got Indiana Jones 5, which, yeah, I will watch, but I'm not holding out too much hope. I just think they should have left it at the 3 films. So that is my number 8. Number 7, Lord of the Rings trilogy. Wow. Absolute fantastic. These were released back to back. The Fellowship of the Ring in 2001, The Two Towers in 2002, and The Return of the King in 2003. These were all directed by Peter Jackson. Now, what I loved about this and what I loved about Peter Jackson was the fact that he wanted to do this movie his way. So he wanted to film it where he wanted to film it. He didn't want to let Hollywood sort of like dictate to him where he filmed it. So he filmed it in New Zealand, which was absolutely the right choice. The scenery was absolutely stunning. I felt like I was really immersed in Middle Earth. Absolutely brilliant. The sets that they built, outstanding. The costumes, absolutely brilliant. I've read the books by J.R.R. Tolkien, and to be fair, they're the only books that I've read back to back all the way through. I don't generally read because it bores the shit out of me, but these had me captivated. And when I read the books, I was like, how are they going to transfer this to the screen? And boy, what a job they did. Absolutely outstanding effort. The casting was absolutely superb. It's definitely got one of the best soundtracks for a film, in my opinion. The only reason why this isn't higher up for me in this list is simply the fact that when you watch it now, some of the CGI and special effects look dated, and it shows, which is a shame. If I'd have done this 10, 15 years ago, it would have been definitely a contender for my number 1. But simply because of that fact that the CGI has kind of not aged too well in some scenes, this is the reason why it's only number 7 for me. Other than that, absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Okay, so moving on. Number 6, we have the Jurassic Park films. The first one released in 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg. When this first came out, this blew me away. The CGI was absolutely outstanding, and this was one of the films that I think can go down as changing the way films are made, especially with the CGI. By all accounts, when they first were doing this movie, Phil Tippett was wanting to use stop motion dinosaurs, and I'm glad that they moved on from that and they used the CGI and they got that to work, because I think stop motion would have looked very old school, which has a charm, but boy, how has it changed the way movies are made with the CGI. Absolutely outstanding. The storyline was really good. The casting was superb. And for me, this was the best movie out the Jurassic Park trilogy, as well as the Jurassic Park or the Jurassic World franchise. Absolutely brilliant. In 1997, we had The Lost World released. Again, that was directed by Steven Spielberg. A good film, an okay storyline. Casting was okay. Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum. I think he's absolutely tremendous. I love that guy. I think he's amazing. Just the way he is, the way he carries himself, the way he talks, his camera, his screen presence. Really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy this as much as the first one. It's still a good movie. And the reason why this Jurassic Park trilogy isn't in at number 6 is solely because of the CGI and the dinosaurs, which I think are absolutely fantastic. The storyline sort of went downhill a little bit after the first one. In the second one, Lost World, they wanted to take the dinosaurs back to the mainland and open up another park, and obviously things go tits up, and you get a T-Rex running around the place and causing havoc. Yeah, it's okay. It was okay. And then in 2001, Jurassic Park 3 was released. This was directed by Joe Johnston. Again, with a lot of the trilogies, you'll find that the third one is always the weakest link. That's in my opinion. Definitely the weakest link in this trilogy. The dinosaurs, however, that they were improved. The CGI was improved. You had the Spinosaurus, which I thought was really good. The fight scene between the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus, really enjoyed that. Bit gutted the T-Rex lost, but there you go. You can't have it, being the main dinosaur in all the movies. But yeah, again, it was an okay movie. Dr. Alan Grant gets seconded into going back to an island, or going back to an island to what he thought was look at dinosaurs and give a guided tour. It ends up it was a sort of like a rescue mission looking for this little kid. Yeah, it was okay, not the best. Again, this is solely at number 6, this trilogy, because of the CGI and the dinosaurs, which I thought was absolutely awesome. Moving on to number 5 in the list, the Alien trilogy. Now, I know there was a 4th movie made. I shall get back to that in a second. So the first one, Alien, released in 1979, directed by Ridley Scott. Wow, this movie scared the living shit out of me. Absolutely brilliant. The suspense in it was heart thumping. I remember watching this as a kid, even though I shouldn't have been watching it as a kid. I still sneaked in and watched it. One of my dad's all-time favorite movies. The casting, superb. The storyline, superb. The set, fantastic. Everything about this film was just absolutely brilliant for the time. Has it aged a little bit? Yeah, you could say so. But, this was made in 79. So for that time, absolutely phenomenal. And my God, that scene where the alien is bursting out the chest, that didn't go to plan to start with. Ridley Scott wanted it to come straight out, but it didn't. It took a couple of goes, and that added to it for me. I thought that was really good. The cast, they weren't too sure what was going to happen, and the looks on their faces when they were filming that, it was actual real life. What the fuck has that just happened there? What is this? And the look of horror on their face was real. So how he's filmed that was absolutely brilliant. You had a cracking cast, a really good film. Then in 1986, 7 years later, you had Aliens released. That was directed by James Cameron. This is set 50 years after Alien, where Ripley gets picked up in the escape shuttle or escape pod. And in that time, the company have then colonized the planet where the alien was on. So all hell breaks loose and all the aliens then start breeding and stuff like that. So a kick-ass Marine Force go back to the planet and to see what's going on, and they get ambushed and get their asses whooped by these aliens, which I thought was brilliant because you saw a lot more of the aliens this time. You saw how they moved and stuff like that. Added bonus, you had the Alien Queen. I thought that was fantastic. Really, really good film. Lots of action. I thought bloody hell, I forgot his name again. Bill Paxton. I thought he was superb. Michael Biehn, superb. Then he had Bishop. I thought he was great. Lance Henriksen. Ripley in it again was really good. Then you had the little kid Newt, bless her. I thought she was okay for a kid. But yeah, so it ends with the Bishop getting ripped in half, and then the Queen Alien getting blown out the airlock at the end of the ship, and then everything's like tickety boo. You think that's it, happily ever after. Then Alien 3 came along. That was released in 1992, directed by David Fincher. This carried on from Aliens, where you had the Queen, unbeknown to us, that she laid a couple of eggs. They hatched. They caused merry havoc. And then the escape pod crashes on this planet. Now, the only disappointing thing about this film was that they killed off Newt and Hicks practically straight away in that crash, which I would love to have seen them in it. It was such a shame they got rid of those two characters early doors, or practically straight away in Alien 3. But the good thing about this film is it went back to how Alien was filmed, where you didn't see much of the alien. It was just the suspense of it. And it was a planet. It was like a prison planet, and he had all these convicts in there that had changed, well, not changed, but they converted to religion. They hadn't seen a woman in God knows how long. Then Ripley sort of came down, and she was mingling with them. So you had these convicts that hadn't seen a woman walking around with boners for God knows how long, and they tried to attack her. And they, I can't remember his name now. Oh God. Well, one of the characters with the glasses, he was one of the main guys. He just whipped them and just said, "No, go on, leave her alone, bugger off." Charles Dance was in it. I'm surprised his character got killed off as early as it did. I thought he would have been one of the main characters that had gone through with it. Brian Glover, he was in it. He was one of the he was the warden. I thought he played the part really well. Yeah, lots of cameos. You had oh God, I'm rubbish at names now. He was in Jurassic Park 2. Pete Postlethwaite, that's it. He was in it, so he had a little cameo. And then the alien was just running around causing havoc and taking out these prisoners one by one. And then the twist of the story was that Ripley was impregnated by the facehugger, so she was carrying a queen alien, and she was hoping the alien would kill her, but obviously the alien could sense that she was carrying a queen, so the alien left her alone and didn't kill her. So then they had to come up with another plan. In the end, Ripley decided to jump off the platform into the big vat of like molten metal and stuff like that, into the furnace. And as she was doing that, the alien popped out, and they both perished. Well, that's what you'd have thought. And for me, that would have been the perfect ending to the Alien trilogy. But no, they had to release Alien Resurrection in 1997. They brought Ripley back through cloning, and to me, that is a standalone film. Yeah, I wish they'd have just left it as these three. I don't understand film companies or franchises where they feel like 15, 20 years later, or in this case, it was 5 years later from the release of Alien 3, they got to carry on and just flog it to death. It ruins it. You can stop making these films and stuff like that. Don't have to keep doing film after film after film. It takes away from what was a really good trilogy. So I just class Resurrection as a standalone movie. So yes, there you go. That was my reasoning for that, and that was number 5. Number 4, this is going to surprise a lot of people. Yes, it's the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm a big Star Wars fan, as most of you know. I love the original films. Prequels were okay. Sequels were shit. But that's another story. So, yes, Star Wars. Released in 1997, directed by George Lucas. Wow. This film, at the time, changed the way movies were made with special effects. Absolutely brilliant. The casting was superb. The storyline was brilliant. There was a lot of mixture of different genres in there. And the music, John Williams at the time, he could do no wrong for music. Absolutely fantastic. So I really love this film. This could have been a standalone film. It pretty much was at the time, because they didn't realize it was going to be so successful. So if it would have bombed, it would have just been a standalone film. It would have worked. It didn't bomb. It was really successful. So George Lucas was like, okay, I'm going to bank the rest of the movies, which was fantastic. So Star Wars was originally released in 97. No, it wasn't. 1977, should I say. Then a few years later, it got changed to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. So then in 1980, you had Empire Strikes Back. This was directed by Irving Kershner. Now, most films, you can't better the first one. This one bombed the first one. This was absolutely outstanding. For me, the best in the trilogy, the best in the series. It's got the best poster. It's got the best storyline to it. You had the I am your father reveal. I thought it was a lot darker, which is okay. You can go dark. It doesn't have to be all light and airy all the time. Life isn't rainbows and butterflies every day. You do have your dark moments. I thought the action was outstanding. You had the Battle of Hoth. You had the asteroid chase. Yeah, really, really strong film. And for me as well, the best soundtrack. Absolutely outstanding. Really good. Then in 1983, the story at the time we thought was concluded with Return of the Jedi. This was directed by Richard Marquand. Again, I love the film. It's a fantastic film. For me, it missed Gary Kurtz, who was producer in Empire and A New Hope. Nothing against Richard Kazanjian. I thought he did a good job, but I thought the difference was artistic differences came in between George and Gary. I mean, those two worked together for a long time, and George wanted it one way, and Gary Kurtz was like, well, no, we have it this way, you know. And George, obviously being George, got what he wanted, and unfortunately Gary decided was kicked off the team, which was such a shame. But yeah, a fantastic film. You had your Battle of Endor, you had your speeder bikes, you had the Death Star, you had the Emperor, who I thought was absolutely amazing. I love the guy who plays him. Is it Ian McDiarmid? I thought he's brilliant. The reason why this is only number 4 and not contending for the number 1 spot is because they altered the films. They came out with the special editions, and these posters I have here on the screen are the special edition. Yeah, they should have left well alone. If they wanted to clean the film and make it up to date with today's, 4K, 8K TVs and stuff like that, and stuff like that, then yeah, fine, do that. Clean it up, restore it, and maybe change a few bits, as in, like, I like what they did with the X-Wings in the Battle of Yavin. They cleaned those up. They did a little bit of cleaning up in Empire Strikes Back, where they in the snowspeeder in the Battle of Hoth, in the cockpit of the snowspeeder, sometimes you could see through the cockpit and stuff like that. So they blacked that out and made that a lot stronger. That's all they should have done. They should never have added Jabba. They should never have added certain scenes to Empire, and they shouldn't have added certain scenes to Return of the Jedi. Mainly the bloody singing scene by Wasm and Cy Snootles. They should have left that alone as the original. The one good bit that they did add was in The Empire Strikes Back, is with the Emperor. I thought that was good. I'm glad they did that, because that ties in quite nicely with how things were with the Emperor and stuff like that. So that was pretty good. I like that. Anakin Skywalker at the end, for me, they should have kept with Sebastian Shaw. They should never have put Hayden Christensen into that. The reason they did that was because of the release of the prequels, which were coming out later that year. They should have left well alone, in my opinion. So that is unfortunately why one of my favorite films of all time is only at number 4 in the trilogy. If they'd have left it alone and it would have been the original, then I would have been quite happy for it to contend for number 1 spot. But as is, it is number 4, and that is my reason why. Moving on to number 3, Back to the Future. Fantastic. This was released in 1985, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, awesome. Really enjoyable film. Strong casting. Tom Wilson, I thought, was great as Biff Buchanan. The concept of it, I thought, was really good, really clever for the time. Yeah, a really enjoyable, fun movie to watch. Really enjoyable. Very cleverly done. And then in 1989, you had Back to the Future Part 2, again directed by Robert Zemeckis, and this seamlessly went from the first Back to the Future seamlessly into Back to the Future Part 2, which is really difficult to do, I think, with films, because you've got like a lot of loopholes and stuff like that. But this just moves smoothly, and you could have had it. It could have been just one long movie. Really good. Again, the casting was fantastic. The only disappointment for me was the fact that the guy who played the George McFly in the first movie wasn't in the second. I thought in the first one he was really good. His mannerisms, his laugh, just the way he was. But by all accounts, I think he got a bit greedy and wanted a bit too much money, and they turned around and said no. So they recast that, which is a shame. But yeah, Michael J. Fox, outstanding again. Christopher Lloyd, outstanding again. And then Part 3 was released in 1990. So this was a year after Part 2 was released. Again, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Fantastic. Really good ending to the trilogy. And what I liked about this trilogy is the fact that it's been unspoiled. You don't need to go back and change things. Maybe clean it up and restore it, but you do not need to add anything to it. You don't need to change anything about this film trilogy at all. It is absolutely perfect the way it is, and this is why this is at number 3. I did, however, a couple of weeks back go and watch Back to the Future, the musical, up in London. I was very sketchy about watching it because I wasn't too sure how they were going to do it, and my wife wanted to see it. She loves the Back to the Future movies, and I have to say I was absolutely blown away by it. The casting was great. The set was fantastic. What they can do now in musical theatre is absolutely amazing. And it's the first show we've been to see for a long time. And I really enjoyed it. The guy who played George McFly absolutely nailed the part. His mannerisms was practically the guy from the movie. His laugh was spot on. His movement was spot on. The guy who played Doc Brown, he was also in The Producers, but he was absolutely brilliant. He was hilarious, nailed the part, and the chemistry between them on the screen was amazing. And how they did the car at the end, where it lifted up off the stage, the wheels folded up, and then it came out on his big mechanical arm over the audience, turned, and then went back again. It absolutely fantastic. However, they did change it. In the movie Back to the Future, Doc Brown is shot down by terrorists because he nicked the plutonium or whatever it was to fuel the time machine. Obviously, with this day and age softly approach to life, that didn't happen in the stage show. It was radiation poisoning that got him, which was okay, I guess. But they've changed that, so they do not need to change this movie. It is perfect as it is. So that is the reason why that Back to the Future trilogy is my number 3 and above Star Wars. Moving on to number 2 in my list is the Dark Knight trilogy. So the first one, Batman Begins, was released in 2005, directed by Christopher Nolan. Wow, what a really good movie. Really enjoyed this film. I thought Christopher Nolan had done a great job in directing. He got the look of Gotham right. He got the characters right. And I, again, cannot bloody remember the guy who played Chief Gordon, but I thought he was awesome. So while I'm just gonna concentrate on what I'm doing. So yeah, I thought the casting was fantastic. Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, I thought was really good. The storyline was really good. Lucius Fox with Morgan Freeman, I thought he was really good as well. And Michael Caine, for me, is the number 1 Alfred. He nailed that part. He really did. So yeah, a great movie. That was followed up in 2008 by The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight, should I say, again directed by Christopher Nolan. And Heath Ledger as the Joker stole the show. He was absolutely tremendous. And I did a countdown to my all-time favorite Joker performance a few weeks back. I shall leave a link to that video in the description below on this one. But yeah, again, the casting was great. You had Two-Face. I thought his story was really good. I really enjoyed that, how they did him. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Again, Christian Bale did a really good job as Batman. And then in 2012, you had The Dark Knight Rises. Again, Christopher Nolan, and a very strong finish to the trilogy with Tom Hardy as Bane. And I thought he was really good. And again, just enjoyable movies, lots of action. The storyline was great. You saw lots of characters. The only sad thing is the fact that you didn't get to see Heath Ledger's Joker, because he sadly passed away not long after The Dark Knight was released. So that was a shame, because it would have been interesting to see him and how he interacted with people in The Dark Knight Rises. But again, fantastic film, brilliant trilogy. Of all the DC movies or films out there and characters, it's the Batman line that grabs my interest. Not too worried about Wonder Woman or Superman or Aquaman or the Flash or the others. Batman and its core characters is the one from DC. And if they wanted to start a DC universe, this should have been the starting point for it. They've got a lot of work to do to catch up with Marvel, that is for sure. But I think if they'd have built their DC universe around the Dark Knight trilogy, I think they would have been on par with the Marvel universe. This is a lot darker, and which I don't mind. I don't mind films being dark, and Batman is dark. Is the Dark Knight, isn't it? So, but yeah, they should have built their universe around these characters from the Dark Knight trilogy for sure. Anyway, that is my number 2. My number 1 trilogy is The Bourne Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum. Wow, absolutely love these films. I hadn't seen these films properly, and I'd only seen bits and bobs of them. And one New Year's, I was supposed to go out, and I get ready, and I thought, you know what, I really cannot be asked to go out. I'm not interested in going out. So I stayed in, had a drink, and watched the Bourne films back to back. And I'm glad I did. It was probably one of the best New Year's I've ever had. But yeah, so Bourne Identity, released in 2002, director Doug Liman. Fantastic storyline, lots of action, lots of stunts, hardly any special effects, if any at all, which this is what appealed to me for these films. The stunts were superb, the action was superb, the storyline was superb, and Matt Damon was superb, and that really surprised me, because I didn't think he'd be able to pull this off, this film. And that's what kind of put me off watching these films, was the fact that Matt Damon was in it. But I hold my hands up, how wrong was I? He was absolutely awesome. Then in 2004, you had The Bourne Supremacy released, and that was directed by Paul Greengrass. Again, another really strong film, lots of action, lots of suspense. The storyline, it just kept me gripped. And it's one of those films or trilogies where you've just got to be awake all the time. You've got to keep your eyes on the screen. You've got to listen to what's being said, and you've really got to keep your concentration in these movies, because it is easy to get lost. And the plots and the plot twists and stuff like that, I thought were superb. And because I sat and watched them on my own back to back, I really, really did appreciate all the time, effort, and the storyline for these films. Absolutely brilliant. Then the Ultimatum, Bourne Ultimatum, was released in 2007. Again, Phil Greengrass, fantastic ending to the series. Again, so we thought. But for me, this is my number 1 film trilogy, because of the storyline, because of the action, the stunts, because the very little use or any special effects at all were used in this. And you don't need big special effects to make a film. If the story is good and is believable, and the characters are believable, and the action is good, you don't really need shitloads of special effects to make it up, or to make the film. I think today's films are too focused on special effects and wow, this is cinematically stunning. Look at this is fantastic. And then you get a shit storyline. And to me, the film is about the story. I get taken in by the story, and if the story is good, then it grabs my attention, and I want to watch it, and then I want to listen, and then I want to see what happens in the next one, and the next one, and the next one. If it's just all special effects and very little story, then yeah, I'd watch it, but I don't really pay that much attention to it. Anyway, Born Legacy rather was released in 2012. What happened in that film was sort of going on while the events of the Bourne trilogy was going on. But for me, that is a standalone film. I will not. That's why I'm having this as a trilogy. That doesn't count to me as a trilogy or part of the trilogy. And then in 2016, Jason Bourne was released. Again, another standalone film. I do really, really wish that when they do these trilogy films, that they just leave them at that. It's like, you know, you've got your Indiana Jones, you've got your Aliens, you've got your Bourne trilogies. They just carry it on too long, and to me, it's wrong. Don't keep flogging a franchise. Yes, you're making loads of money out of it, but you're weakening in the franchise in my eyes. So the Indiana Jones original trilogy, absolutely fantastic, brilliant. What if you're going to do another movie and add to that franchise, do it within 2 or 3 years of the final film of the trilogy. Don't wait 20 years. I don't get me wrong, Harrison Ford, I love Harrison Ford as an actor, brilliant actor, got a lot of time for him, but he shouldn't have been doing the Crystal Skull. It weren't a very good storyline. It was very weak, and you know, we've got another one coming out next year, so I'll be interested to see what that film holds and stuff like that. And you know, this possibly could be Harrison Ford's last film. But again, with Aliens, it had a fantastic ending. It had an ending, but no, they had to rekindle it and bring Ripley back, and through cloning. And to me, it is weakening the franchise, not adding to it. Because I mean, Aliens, Alien 3, fantastic films, and then you get Alien Resurrection, which it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Don't keep doing that. You know, it's unneeded in my eyes. Anyway, that's enough whiffle waffle from me. I'll be interested to see your guys' views on what you would class as your #1 film trilogy. You know, so let me know in the comments below what your #1 film trilogy is. Let me know why, because it's easy to say, yeah, I like that one. Well, brilliant. Yeah, let me know why. And also, if you don't like something, give a reason behind why you don't like it. It's easy to turn around and say, yeah, I don't like that, that's shit. But why? Give a reason. Build a conversation. Let me know why you didn't like something. This is what I try to do with my videos, with my countdowns and stuff like that. If I like something, then I'll give a reason as to why I like it. If I don't like something, then I will also give a reason as to why I don't like it. And hopefully those reasons are fair enough. I will respect other people's opinions, obviously. It's all about opinions. Doesn't mean to say that I'm right or wrong. You know, doesn't mean to say you guys are right or wrong. So I'd love to hear your opinions on what you feel your #1 film trilogy would be and why. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's all. If you are new to the channel, feel free to comment, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to let you know of more content, and as always, there will be more content. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.